This episode of the Home Pros Radio Show podcast is brought to you by HomeBinder, the premier home management app. Receive home maintenance reminders, organize your home's inventory, manage your home improvement projects, and more. Stay tuned to get a free upgrade code for HomeBinder worth over $200.
The Home Pros Radio Show.
I'm Tommy Donovan with RIC Home Inspections, and this is the Home Pros Radio Show podcast. One thing you may have heard Shane Hips and I say on the show is that there's always something new to see in our line of work. Take, for instance, the photo from the field that we shared in the show description of this podcast. See how many issues you can find in this photo. Do any of them look similar to conditions you may have in your home? Hopefully not, because as we explained on the show, sometimes even the smallest of problems can potentially become very big when they're put together.
You know what else we have to get to this morning is the
RIC Home Inspections photo from the field.
What are you looking at? I know what I'm doing.
Did you see that? Special shout out to all those out there who are watching us on Facebook Live. You've probably seen our photo from the field. If you haven't, folks, check it out. It's on Facebook at Home Pros Radio. Cool picture. As soon as I took this one, I was like, I can't wait to share it. All kinds of things going on in that photo. I actually asked in the tease, all right, how many things can you spot in this photo? Or how many things can you spot wrong in this photo? And one of the responses was, it might be easier to count the number of things that are right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's some issues here.
So what do we see? We've got an electrical panel. The first thing that stands out to me, it's kind of hard to see because you've got, it's an unfinished room. But that's an electrical panel with a door on it that is made of wood.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently at some point the homeowner lost the panel cover. Or it's what we call in electrician world a dead panel, or a dead cover, which means it's, not energized or anything like that.
Right.
So, and that's usually that cover that is, protecting folks from accessing live power. And so they lost it. I don't know how. How do you lose something like that?
An electrician comes in and sets it somewhere and it never gets put back on.
Doesn't come back and finish the job.
We used to have a problem losing the electrical panels during the construction process.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because, when you wire the house, you don't put the panel cover on at that point in time because if you do, the drywallers will come in and lose it for you or dent it up or beat it up. So we would put them in the attic. And then by the time we get back to the house, someone has gone in there, I guess, insulated. So we used to have but I don't think this one was necessarily lost during the construction process, but it could have been.
Yeah, it could have been. And so the homeowner's solution was to hinge a plywood door to it, which is not good because why?
Plywood is flammable.
Yeah. If you get an arc or, loose connection in that panel, well, those sparks are going to hit the plywood cover and cause a fire.
And remember when we had the guy with about the vent, the dryer vent company?
Yes, absolutely.
And remember he was talking about how flammable lint was, like from your dryer. Just imagine how easily it would be to start a nice little fire in there.
And that's the other thing I want to point out is look at all the dryer lint. This is obvious. This isn't. You can kind of tell if you look closely, but it is a laundry room that apparently did not have a dryer vent or it was detached. Mm-hmm. So we have an electrical panel with a wood cover that's not closed because that thing didn't close. It didn't stay hinged shut. It just sat there like that with dryer lint being blown around the room. It was just a fire waiting to happen.
And that panel's also, because it's funny that you and I had both been to this house because I looked at the house to renovate it prior to someone buying
the
it.
Seller.
But for the seller, because they were going to fix it up before they sold it. Then they decided to sell it as is, and then you got the home inspection on it. Because when you described it, I was like, "Oh, I've been to that house." Yeah. But the panel is also above the dryer to where you don't really have access to get to the panel in case of an emergency too. So I mean, you had all kind of things.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because there are clearances.
Oh, I thought I won something.
No, well.
Hopefully the winner, that homeowner who is now taking care of the hazards we found in that home. Sometimes there may be hazards in our home, though, that aren't easy to see, like lead paint, a concern for those who live in older homes. Shane and I discussed this topic after receiving a question from a listener who was looking to purchase an older home that needed some work.
Jessica from Greenville. I'm buying an older home that we will eventually be renovating. Should we have our home tested for lead-based paint? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, you can certainly get it tested. That way, at least you know what you're
dealing with.
What you're dealing with whenever you do encounter it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't think it's ever a bad move to have it tested.
Mm-hmm. But the thing that I found interesting is in my research, like if you go to the EPA's website, you have the little link that says, well, what if I have lead-based paint? And they say, find someone who can handle it.
Yeah.
I was hoping that we would get some tips or some suggestions. In my experience, the response is usually covered up.
Yeah. If you don't, just like asbestos, if you don't disturb it. Yeah.
If you're not going to take it out, go through the trouble of taking it out, or the materials that have the lead-based paint on it, it's recommended that you cover it up, whether it's with paneling or new paint or whatever. Seal it with a proper primer and all that good stuff.
Right.
So who's at risk? If you have a home that's built before 1978, you have the potential of having lead-based paint in your home. How do you find out? You have it tested, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't do it as a home inspector. I just don't have that request enough. But you can take samples of the building materials and
I mean, you can get the little kits at like Home Depot or Lowe's. I mean, you just have to cut through the paint, like completely through it, like to wood, and then you have this little swab thing that you put on there and it'll change colors. I mean, it's an easy test
process,
but you're only testing that location. So keep in mind, if you're testing one windowsill, I mean, that doesn't say that none of the windowsills, have it. But it's really a relatively simple test.
What do you do if you have lead-based paint in your home? You have two options: abatement and management. Management is basically abatement is removal. Management is
containment.
You can only contain it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's little tips that the EPA does put out, to the people with certifications or getting certified. There's things like, for instance, if you're going to sand it, wet it, so the dust isn't flying all over the place. That way it contains, there's just little tips. But typically I say if you're going to do anything more than paint it, probably hire someone else to do it.
Good resource, folks, for those of you out there who might be concerned, EPA.gov. And for that and many other types of environmental issues and questions you might have, that's a great resource, a good website.
Diane wasn't sure where to turn when she was having issues with her dishwasher drain. An appliance where proper drainage is always an important concern. So she turned to the Home Pros. Here are some helpful maintenance tips that'll help keep your dishwasher drain running free and clear.
We have this from Diane. She's in Traveler's Rest. Why does my sink fill up with water when I run my dishwasher?
It's stopped up, and the dishwasher's dumping into the garbage disposal.
Yeah. I see this a lot on, maybe I'm going in to do an inspection on a foreclosed home or new construction sometimes. Just throw the rest of the drywall mud into the garbage disposal.
Sawdust, everything else.
Here are the places to check. Obviously, we have a clog somewhere. So check to see if anything's covering or obstructing the drain in the rear of your dishwasher. That would cause your dishwasher to back up, actually. But that's one thing that could happen. Check the drain hose on your dishwasher. They're known to kink and cause blockages. That would cause also water to back up in your dishwasher. Also, be sure to be sure that you are using the correct brand and amount of detergent for your dishwasher, as it can eventually build up and result in a clog even in your drain, because that stuff comes out in chunks. This is where we need Gronkowski. No, to tell us about what not to do. If your drain is backing up into your garbage disposal, you've got issues with your disposal. So run the garbage disposal for one. Make sure we get that cleared out. Use some sink cleaners. One of the coolest tools I found was the zip tie, or what is it called?
I think it's just a zip
tie or something.
Oh, yeah.
You can find it at your big box stores. It's just a plastic serrated, it's kind of like a snake you stick down your drain.
Yeah, like it's got barbs on it. It pulls back one way, so once you put it in there, it pulls out all the hair and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So that would help. Hopefully you don't have hair in your... I don't want to know what you're eating if it's in your dishwasher.
Hairballs.
Yeah.
Part cat.
And then snake the drain. And if none of that works, it's in your sink drain. That's what's happening, or your disposal's not draining right. So if none of those solutions unclog your sink, it's recommended, obviously, to call a plumber. Also, remember, don't use your garbage disposal as a catch-all. Don't use it as a trash can. And little footnote here. If you have a septic tank on your home, a lot of folks don't realize this, but you do not want to use garbage disposal.
Right.
Because that just can screw up your septic tank and cause issues.
Now, a question regarding radon, which we've covered before on the show. This time, we look at it from the perspective of the real estate transaction and the importance of testing your new home for radon while going through the purchase process. This question came to us from one of our regular listeners who happens to be a real estate agent.
We did have a question earlier. This is from Dina Lopez. She's a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway. Thanks for the text here. She actually says that she sees, when selling homes, the question of radon testing comes up. And she wants to know our advice on buyers getting that radon inspection or radon test done. What are your thoughts on that? We've talked about it before.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any reason not to get the radon test. I mean, it's not very expensive at all. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't believe in radon, you know, there are certain people out there just flat out
they think it's a hoax
and everything else. Even if you don't believe in it, you're going to sell that house at some point in time, probably.
And it'll become an issue.
And the next person's going to test it. So then you're stuck paying the $1,500 to $2,000 for that mitigation system that, had you just tested in the beginning, it would already be installed. Mm-hmm. So I honestly think there is no reason to not get a radon test on any house. Mm-hmm. And I think that I honestly think the education of radon testing needs to be increased to the general public also. Mm-hmm. Not only houses that are being bought and sold have radon, houses that have been sitting there for 30 years and the same people living in them have high radon levels as well. So I absolutely think you should always get that. And on new construction also, because it's still, the possibilities are there.
So it could be an issue. Mm-hmm. We talk about this in episode 37 of our podcast. So make sure you check that out. Again, you can find it at iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all kinds of places. Hopefully that'll be of some help, Dina. Appreciate the question.
We hadn't told them we've got an app yet.
Oh, yeah, we got an app on the way. Well, we already have it on Android.
Yeah, on Android.
Find the Home Pros Radio app.
Yeah, you may have to look for it because we need some downloads of it, first of all, to get us to climb in that in the search. But, yeah, I've actually got it on my phone, so I was able to find it. I mean, Sweet. It's Home Pros Radio in the apps, and that way you have the app, and you can listen to any podcast that we put out there pretty much.
That's it. We also have one in the works for iTunes. It's gonna be on. You can get the Home Pros Radio app for your iPhone and iPad. I don't know what the delay with it is, so we will let you know. Keep you posted as soon as that's available.
This episode of the Home Pros Radio Show podcast is sponsored by HomeBinder. There is no better way to organize paint colors and home documents, get maintenance reminders, receive email alerts of appliance recalls, and share valuable information about your home with potential buyers. For a limited time, use promo code HOMEPROSRadio, all one word, to upgrade to our premium edition for the life of your ownership. Visit us online at homebinder.com or simply click on the link provided in the show description of this podcast. HomeBinder, a homeowner's best friend.
Now, those of you who listen regularly are probably familiar with our Home Pros radio show, Closing Contractor Mystery Sound. Now, it can be quite tough to come up with a new challenge every week, and as you'll note in this next segment, sometimes the Closing Contractor Mystery Sound requires yours truly to resort to desperate measures.
The Closing Contractor Mystery Sound.
All right, so what is this? Anybody have an idea? Obviously, I was short on ideas, but yeah, give us a call. Our buddy Scout is watching the phone line. Oh, look, it's Benjamin from Martin, Georgia.
Good morning, how are you?
Yeah, good morning, Benjamin. What's happening?
Well, I had a guess for your contractor mystery.
Okay, great. Let's listen to it real quick, folks.
The Closing Contractor Mystery Sound.
All right, here we go. All right. So what do you think it is, Benjamin?
I hope you don't laugh at me, but it sounds like a squirrel running around in the attic.
That's a good guess. As much as we like to talk about squirrels on our show, that is not a bad guess at all, but it's not quite it. But thanks for the call.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you. Not a bad guess, yeah. That's before they got shocked by the open junction boxes.
Yeah, and laid there and just cried.
They waited for me to come take a photo.
Well, we never showed the possum. Remember last week? Well, we never really got into it on the show, but you were showing me the picture of the family of possums.
A family of possums. I was crawling through a crawl space a couple of weeks ago and came across a possum skeleton. And I was like, ooh. And then I crawled a few feet more and I saw a really teeny tiny possum skeleton and then another teeny tiny possum skeleton. And I was like, oh, that must have been a girl possum over there. It must have been a mom.
Yeah.
So that was, I actually showed the photos to the buyer too because I thought it was kind of neat. In a way.
In a way, I guess.
Yeah, we run into dead bodies. Dead animal bodies.
Mummies and everything else.
If I find a dead person body, I will get on my feet. I don't care how low the crawl space is. I will get on my feet and run out of the crawl space if that happens. So, let's see. Who is it? Good morning, Home Pros.
Morning, Home Pros. This is Jack Leggett, Jacked Up Home Repair.
Oh, hey, Jack. What's up?
Last week you were talking about lead-based paint.
Yeah.
I test for lead paint all the time.
Oh,
it's pretty easy for me to just tell the difference between regular paint and lead-based paint.
Really?
How's that?
How do you do that?
It's by the taste.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't think that's the way
So
to
I got the answer to that mystery sound.
Oh, you do?
It sounds just like when Roscoe and I used to take turns riding in a clothes dryer when we were kids. Remember that, Roscoe? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Actually, you might be pretty close there.
Anyway, I'm glad you're paying tributes to daddies today.
Yeah.
My daddy taught me all kinds of things about home improvement.
He did?
Yeah, like how to check the air pressure in our home's tires, how to wire extra outlets in our home with an extension cord. He even taught me how to rig our cable box so we could watch WrestleMania for free.
Oh boy. The good old days.
Daddy. Even when he was in jail, he always made time for visitation.
That's nice. Well, tell us, what's your dad doing now?
My dad, I don't know. Hey,
Yeah?
you don't know where Daddy is? Whatever happened to Daddy? On the radio show.
Well, I guess he had to go look for Daddy. All right.
Maybe he'll figure it out. Let us know next week.
Yeah, exactly. Deal. So, we got another call. This is Dave from Greer. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
Good, Dave.
Do you have an idea of what the mystery sound is?
Closing Contractor Mystery Sound.
All right, listen again. What can this possibly be? Yeah, to me it sounds like a host who is desperate for a mystery sound.
That sounded like shoes in a dryer to me.
Oh, you nailed it.
Way to go, Dave.
Good job.
All right.
Right. You have kids?
Yeah, I've got a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old.
All right. So are they boys?
I got the boy is 13 and the girl is 11.
Okay, so you have one of each. Well, regardless, I'm sure that you've had some point where you've had to go, what did you step in? Gotta clean those shoes. We just bought those. Rinse them off, put them in the dryer. And that's what.
Yes, sir.
Well, thanks for the call, Dave. Everybody give him a round of applause. Good job. All right.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Home Pros Radio Show podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you can have our latest episodes delivered straight to your device. Have a question for the Home Pros? Shoot us a message through our website at homeprosradio.com or email us directly at ask@homeprosradio.com. We'd love to hear from you. For my co-host Shane Hips with Closing Contractor, I'm Tommy Donovan with RIC Home Inspections, and we'll catch you next time on the Home Pros Radio Show podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Home Pros Radio Show. If you have a question for the Home Pros, visit us online at homeprosradio.com, where you can contact us directly and also learn more about the topics and guests we bring to you each week. It's the Home Pros Radio Show online at homeprosradio.com or on the radio at 94.5 WGTK, The Answer.